Welcome to the Infinite Human Talk Show with Elizabeth Monroy. Over the next hour, you'll learn how you can become part of the new consciousness renaissance by evolving yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, and socially to embrace your true divine infinite nature and become an infinite human and co-creator of the new infinite earth. Now, here is your host, Elizabeth Monroy.
Hello, my divine, infinite human beings. You're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so thrilled that you have come to join us here in this sacred cyberspace. And we have a very special show today because we have Tacey Trump, who is a longtime producer and my producer of the Infinite Human Talk Show here on Voice America in the Empowerment Channel. And she's going to be interviewing me along with Harrison Ide, who is the, you got so many different, I called you the public relations manager. Is that right? Or Harrison, is that okay?
So I guess my official title is marketing coordinator, but I do kind of have a foot in a bunch of different departments.
Okay, great. So they're here because they're very special people, and I really love them. And they've helped me so much. And they're going to just be asking some questions because I thought it would be nice to pause now since the show's been going on for a little over half a year now. And thank you guys so much for making it such a success and tuning in and listening and sharing it. And just to kind of get to understand better, I feel like this year's about laying a foundation. Is a very important year for that. So they're going to be asking me some questions so I can explain to you how this whole thing happened many, many years ago and how I've been waiting for this very powerful moment that we've now entered. And many of you can identify with that when we're all kind of, the tribes are gathering and we're all kind of laying the foundation for a new earth, an infinite earth. So Tacey, you want to add anything with that or go ahead and shoot the questions?
Very excited to talk about your journey and your books and the new children's books and all the exciting things that are coming up for you today. So shall I ask you the first question?
Okay, the first question is
for 10 points. What inspired you to write The Infinite Human, your wonderful book?
Okay, so it's kind of an interesting story because I was working towards my master's. This was back in 1991. And I was writing a paper, and I just started writing, there is emerging on the face of the earth a new human, an infinite human. And then after that, my computer got struck by lightning, but my husband saved the paper. And I remember just going, what is this? What is this infinite human? What does this mean? What is this all about? And he's like, oh, I don't know. But I turned it into my professor, and he said that the idea was kooky, And so, I'm like, okay, thanks. But it just stuck with me, and it kept pushing me and gnawing at me. What does this mean, infinite human? Well, what is in the face of the earth, a new human? What kind of human is that? And, I had always been a spiritual person born into, my father was a minister who really didn't believe in religion. And he kind of helped me climb out of that, religious context and see spirituality as much more expansive consciousness. So I've always been searching, but that also led me to my spiritual teachers. And I told her about it, and she said, well, file that away. So I guess it wasn't the right time, but, and I kept, searching and the book is really about my spiritual journey of searching, traveling geographically everywhere from, all over, almost every state we lived in the US, Europe, Guam, Asia, and also into the higher dimensions, the supernatural dimensions and of esoteric knowledge. So, and I have to just say, it was really very much downloaded, and I've been working on it for 30 years because it is my life. It's a lot of research too. And it just was born during the whole scandemic, it was the time for it to come out. So that's my answer.
how can the book help, like in your day-to-day life?
Okay, well, what I tried to do with this book, I didn't really realize it because I just like start writing and I get information, and I love to write because it clarifies things, and I actually access higher dimensions of information when I write. But so I tried to blend it and weave it into my own personal journey, especially as like an American woman of that generation, because we've kind of been through a lot. We've kind of had feminism and then the backfire of that and all sorts of stuff. And so I try to ground it in like personal experiences, also like, the whole kiss of death. It's really a hero's journey, which we all have. And just the kiss of death, or facing your dark side, facing your fears. And I was very honest about that because I find it very healing to tell. And I encourage other people to always do that at the end. I say, this is my story. Now go write your own. So I think the journey is really something we all can identify with as awakening individuals, and reaching the point where sometimes you think you're crazy. Sometimes you don't understand why you don't fit in. Sometimes you look at the world outside of you and you think, well, gosh, I must be crazy. Until you begin to realize, no, it's the world that's crazy and it's you that's, sane, and you're regaining your sanity. So I wrote it for all I call them starseeds, whether you call yourself light workers, wanderers, indigos, Orpheans, Aquafarians. There's so many different names now, but just people are starting to wake up and kind of lose the glamour of the accepted reality that we've been, programmed to accept as our life, kind of the materialism and the the religious governmental structures, the work hard, compete, consume, and then die, kind of scenario. And we're starting to kind of wake up, as David Icke would say, wake up from the dream or the simulation and question. And I went through all that, questioning everything. And I go through everything from, religion, the first part as a child. I told you about my father, educational system, being educated myself and being a teacher of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade in Gerald, Texas, and realizing that was a broken system. And then, looking at the governmental systems and looking at the medicine, which my husband was a OBGYN obstetrician gynecologist. So we worked within that broken system and just saw how it was not really delivering what people needed. And so I think it's really important that we need to see how finite and how broken the system is, so we stop feeding the broken system and we extract ourselves, our highest essence, free ourselves up so we can completely, truly co-create and our creativity in a whole new paradigm, in a whole new earth. So that was the goal. And I hope, I've heard from many people that it has helped them do that.
Wonderful. And why did you choose to expose very dark secrets, not only in the world around us, but also about yourself?
I really think that that's just part of the healing and the true ascension path. I think there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that's going on right now, where people are just love and light, love and light, love and false light, And I think to really heal yourself, you have to go down into that deep, dark, dirty that we all have, because we've lived so many lifetimes or, alternate identities, since there's really no time. And we have to come clean that all these things that we hate, sometimes we project ourselves and say, oh, these cabal or these people, but they're aspects of us, because we are all one. We're the infinite knowing ourselves. So when you can really go in and look at that deep, dark, dirty part of yourself and the planet, because it's just a projection of you, then you can begin to heal it. You can begin to, first of all, just forgive. Then you get to the point where you can accept. And finally, you get to the point where you can love yourself, first of all. And then you can love others, because you can, they know not what they do. So you can forgive them, and you can just realize them. And now you're above them, and you can actually be a role model and be much more helpful to others when you can heal that part, that dark shadow self of you.
So would you say that that would be like the highest spiritual message in the books?
Well, yes, I would say, I mean, some people said, gosh, Elizabeth, the last gal that wrote me, I love it when people read it and they write me, and I love to hear what they say. Dagmar, who was from Germany, said, you were so angry and you were so hurt, but I know you were angry because you love us and you were like sticking up for us. And that was kind of the position I took during the scandemic, because they were really intimidating my little Sicilians here that weren't really sophisticated enough to understand all the political and medical and just crap that was going on, that had been happening in America for a long, long time. And all of a sudden it was in their face and they couldn't earn a living unless they got, triple dippled, jabbed. So when I exposed it, I let go of some of the anger that I felt being in the system, like teaching my heart out to these kids, only to find out that the money that was supposed to go to them was being usurped by the supervisor of the school to build a swimming pool, or all these in between people that got in with their selfishness and their greed. And so I kind of let that out. And I think a lot of people needed to identify with that, because you have to feel to heal, and you have to sometimes really let out the anger first, because I always believe that beneath mad is sad. And then there's the hurt. And we've all been so hurt and so victimized and so traumatized. And I kind of just talk about as I visit sacred sites or travel around the planet, whether it's Greece or Egypt or Rome, I begin to have memories of my own identities and the trauma and the injustice that I incurred, or as a ancient Anahazi Indian race, or as a slave. I began to remember these things. And so I wanted to dive into them so that I could put them aside. Because once you do that, then you're free of it. And then you can really focus on the unity, like I said before. And the last chapter is about, okay, we've looked at the dark, we've looked at the light, now let's alchemize it and rise to the top of the pyramid in total unity within the infinite God source within us.
And how does your story relate to other people, Elizabeth?
Well, I think that's it. I think we're all one. I mean, really at the top of this mountain, I think of ascension as a mountain, like the triangle is the top where it's all one. And then the bottom is like duality. And we're all identify with our finite selves. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm a teacher, I'm a rich, I'm poor. And those are just scattered, fragmented, finite expressions of ourselves. And, David Icke was asked, how do you escape the matrix? And he said, stop identifying with the finite. And I say, to be infinite, you only need to let go of the finite. So we need to realize that underneath all these facades that we have, we're truly infinite source, knowing itself. And that's when we can really come together. This unity consciousness comes deep, deep, deep. After you've healed, then we can, and we're starting to, it's exciting, become a force on the planet, a force for the highest form of love, because love is unifying. It's the cosmic glue that binds us together, of change, but in a positive, for co-creating our optimal future and an optimal new earth.
So you mentioned to us your husband passed away and you wrote the book, and how did you do that with him?
Well, Peter and I were twin souls, and we were so very close. When we were alive, we would, we never did anything silly like, okay, I'll meet you. If we went to a mall, I'll meet you in an hour under the clock. We just would always find each other. And we would say, did you get my T-mail? We'd say T-mail's telepathy instead of emails, we would always communicate telepathically with each other. So we already had, developed that. And we'd been together for many, many lifetimes. In fact, we came here on a mission together from a galaxy far, far away from another time matrix. And we had a lot of problems too. We've probably killed each other several times when we first met. We were like, but we couldn't leave each other. It was cosmic glue. We were just, because twin souls are really one. They're one. They're just the bird, the right and the left half, or the masculine and the feminine of one. So, but when he died physically, like I came home and found him dead, and I was just praying, please don't let him die. I can't do this. But, I think we both knew he had to. It was, he had done his job here, and he had another job with me from a higher, let's say, perspective. And it was horrible. It was horrible. I mean, I was just lost. I was angry. I did not want, even when I felt him near me, I would get mad, like, well, you're not in the physical, get away from me, and I was mad at God. It was just the darkest night of my soul for many years. I did this for years. And I even talk about how, because I was taking sleeping pills because all I wanted to do was sleep, because when I was asleep, we were together. I'd see him in my dreams. I'd say, oh my God, I had this horrible dream. I dreamt you died. And he would just smile at me, like, well, there is no death, because there is no death. But and then I wake up in the morning, the first words out of my mouth was, oh, fuck, really, literally. I said, no. And I take a sleeping pill because I wanted to go back to sleep. And well, you can imagine where that led me. And it led me actually to waking up in rehab one day saying, I got to decide to live. And I had been told that by my spiritual teacher when I first met her, because I had recall of the last life when Peter and I were together, and he died and I committed suicide. And I said, what's my karma for that? And she said, live. And I went, live? Well, how hard is that? Well, that was the hardest thing. I mean, just that I'm alive today, it was the hardest thing. But finally, as I began to heal from that, and it was a lot of healing, like I tell you, it was a lot of healing still, but I'm really getting there to the point where just as of late, I mean, we're talking almost 20 years later, I'm so happy because I know he never left me. He's with me all the time, He's telling me to do this. I like, he does a lot of the heavy lifting here, not carrying the groceries anymore, but he'll make sure I have money for things. I mean, I have money just come to my account. Like, I need this money, boom. He'll meet people, bring me with people to meet me. He works with people that work with me. It's amazing. And when I write, he's right there, because we used to write together in the physical. So it was all kind of building up to this. So when he took him, it's like, you learn something with someone beside you, and then they take him away, and you're supposed to keep like flying the plane or something if you have a co-pilot, or a teacher. So he's kind of like a teacher. But that's when I just said, no, I'm going to fly by myself, because I can be a brat at times. But so anyway, so that's how it is now. And I just feel him. I know he's with me all the time. It's beautiful. There is no death.
It's beautiful that he's so powerful now. And
yes.
What was the main reason why you chose to include your twin soul journey with your husband in the Infinite Human?
Well, because, and I talk a lot about the twin souls, because the twin souls are the most attacked union that exists on this planet. And that's why most people, and I have a degree in mental health counseling, and my parents were family therapists. So I also did like psychic readings online, for a while there, and then, I incorporated all that with women, and women are always, where's my twin soul? And it's probably the deepest wound that we have, is that missing it, because we all have one, but we miss that, because that love is so perfect. It's so complete. It's so beautiful. And we miss it because we know it. And we know it's not there. So we feel the absence of it. And I wanted people to know this, that you have one, even if they're not in the physical, and timelines have been scrambled on purpose. So we couldn't come together, because when we come together, we hold a very high frequency, which means we're very, very powerful, and our manifestation powers are incredibly powerful. And there's a saying that I don't know if I can remember it, but basically, if there's a twin soul, you they're always getting attacked. And I had many spiritual teachers who were twin souls. My first one, he had to leave. Peter had to leave. He could not we did what we could, and then it was and if one sacrificed, it's always the male, because the woman, the female energy, that magnetic energy, holds higher levels of accesses higher levels of consciousness that she uses on the planet. So it's kind of so that's why I wanted to include that, to say you're not alone. You have a twin, and some of them will be coming in the physical, or if not, as you ascend, you will come together, whether you're in this form or in a different form.
So you refer to the book as like the kind of the red pill enema. Why do you say that?
Red pill enema. Well, it goes probably as deep can be. And I go, a lot of people think David Icke is kind of controversial because he talks about, shape-shifting reptilians, but I bring in a lot of the Christic sciences as spoken by Speaker One, Ashiana Dean, who goes way beyond just, could there be aliens? I mean, the fact is that our time matrix, and that's 5 dimensions of 5 different universes, like just this one, has been infected by a parallel universe of parasitic entities who are fallen angelics who have come in, used their artificial technology to parasite and feed off of us, because they've stopped their connection to source. And when you cut your connection to source, you have to feed off of some other entity, because you can't feed directly. It's like the divine vine of life. You pull the fruit off, it starts to rot because they've disconnected from the divine vine of life. So I go into that and show how it's infected every aspect of our life. It's infected the way we are in relationships, because that's been weaponized, the male-female war kind of thing. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, to separate us, because we're all both. How it goes into education, how we've been dumbed down, and how we've been taught not to think and not to be creative. And that's one of my children's books, The Magical Mist, which is all about fanning the creativity of children. It talks about the government, how politics is always about polarity. It's always about divide and separate, divide and conquer. Sorry. It's always about that. It's about religion, how religion is always placing God outside of yourself, and you're putting your power on some, God the Father Almighty, this tyrannical, God that you have to please and bow down to and sacrifice to. And, it's just looking at every aspect of our life and saying, guys, it's all been a put-up job to keep you small and imprisoned, and especially your physical body, because you've been cut off from the divine, higher dimensions, because we were never supposed to age. We were never supposed to die physically. We could move our bodies through stargates and experience the multi-dimensionality of the universe in other forms. We were never supposed to have dis-ease. Money, we never have to work to live on our Mother Earth. I mean, it's all been devised to keep us in prison. Okay.
And why did you choose to write about such disturbing things as child sacrifice, MK Ultra, mind control, and the devastation of our Mother Earth? Very powerful, important topics.
Because it's part of our history, and it's even our hidden history. But more than that, it's even in our history, but we don't really notice it. But I live right down the road, right over there, over the hill, is a little island called Mosia, where I went and visited, and there was a statue to Baal, and everyone in that community would take their firstborn child, put this little, it's hideous, this little Joker mask of terracotta, put it over the little infant's face, it's about that big, and kill it in front of the statue. And it's still going on, guys. It's still going on to this day. And we have to, you have to bring this out into the light. You have to acknowledge it into just alchemize it into the light. And there's so much MK Ultra mind control going on. I mean, that was basically what the whole scandemic was about, the fear, and then do what we say. And we've all been MK Ultra mind controlled. We have to look at that, because when I say red pill is to crack that programming. And people hate that. That's the last thing you want. Is when someone tries to break you would rather die. Most people would rather die than have their programming cracked and broken. And that's why it's so traumatic for people. You see people who have, maybe they've been molested sexually as a child, but they would rather do anything than to heal that. And, they go into hypnosis or, psychotherapy. And when they finally can, release all that pain, then they free themselves. And that's what I've tried to do again with the red pill enema, bringing it up, because we've all had this. We've all been part of it, if not in this lifetime, in many other lifetimes. So I'm seeing we have 3 minutes. Maybe we'll just go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll just come back in a few minutes. All right. So see you in just a few minutes. Matt, are you there?
Does
For
it
more
stop
empowering
recording?
words from
Oh,
Elizabeth
okay.
Monroy and Dr. Peter Monroy, check out their latest book, The Infinite Human, an ascension guide for starseeds, twin souls, and awakening infinite humans, the co-creators of the new infinite 5D Earth. You'll also find many spiritual books to help both children and adults in their ascension back to home, to infinite God Source. Isn't it time to be part of the new consciousness renaissance? If this resonates with you, please subscribe to our website at infinitehuman.com and become part of our growing Infinite Human family.
Welcome back to the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. Do you have a question or comment for Elizabeth or her guests? Please call us at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. You can also text or email your questions and comments to infinitehumanproductions@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
And welcome back. I'm here with Tacey Trump and Harrison Ide from Voice America. And you know what, guys, I just want to say something real fast about my children's books before I forget, because they're just coming out now. Some of them I wrote over 30 years ago, but, I've just had the ability to get everything, published and illustrated by wonderful, amazing artists. I use 3 different artists. And The Magical Mist came out in 1995, and it was a very powerful message to parents that their children were losing their creative sparkle. And I went all around the United States doing book signings. Back then we had bookstores, like Borders was still around, and, not just Barnes & Noble, I think Barnes & Noble, but, they were everywhere. And I did creativity workshops. And I went into elementary schools, and, sometimes I just, like in Chicago, I think I had 1 student show up, and in Idaho, I had 2 busloads and a film crew came in. So I never knew what was going to happen, but I always told the story. And it was about, a little rag doll that becomes magically alive and takes her owner, well, I don't want to say owner, but, her mommy, to the world of imagination, where she meets King Infinite and Queen Fantasia and learns how wonderful it can be to live creatively. And she munches on Jolly Jelly and purple pudding that makes her fly, and she can touch the walls and crystal walls, and they change color. So it's all about teaching children that, their thoughts direct energy and can manifest their reality, the subliminal message. And then she returns and her with the key of the world to imagination. And it gets thrown away by the teacher, and her mother concurs. And, they think she's just spinning all these stories and distracting the other students. So Mirabelle gets thrown out too. And it's not till years later that she rediscovers her, but she's told by Queen Fantasia that she must be careful because the planet is being covered with a deadly cloud of disbelief. And I wrote that back in the 90s. And now you just look at the chemtrails, and I call it the dopey dust. It was so prophetic. And it's such a good way, I think, to explain in little people's terms what's happening, but how powerful they are and how their imagination can free them. So, I like to, I'm calling them now ascension books because they're for awakening children, and they're a way that I got them all in hardback now, so parents can read them to their children, even in utero, which I think is really important. Stop letting AI raise your children. And then I have a book that just came out with a wonderful artist from Florence, Italy, called The Little Cow Who Refused to Be Hamburger. And it's all about this cow who just loved to run free. And thank God he did, because he found a hole in the fence and he ended up, finding freedom, and instead of being carted away with the rest of the herd, and what happens to them, becoming hamburger. And then we talked about twin souls. So I have a twin soul story for little people about trees that fall in love. And their roots grow together, and their leaves grow together, and they're just having this wonderful love affair. But then one of the storms, we've had so many, comes and rips one of them out, and the other one falls, and you think it's the end. But it's such a beautiful thing, because it really symbolizes, I think, my relationship with Peter, because at the end they somehow find themselves with this hippie couple that had a picnic under them. And he was a carpenter, and he ends up finding both of the trees and creating this beautiful love seat for his wife, and so it makes me cry when I think of that. And so I think they can be very healing too. And then the last one is really, it's about little shells on a beach that are afraid of being crunched to death, and a wise old clamshell that says to the little spiral shell, because the other shells are so worried about, having the sand dollar having her shell cracked, or the conch having his spindle broken off, and they're so into, how they look, and they end up getting put in a glass jar, and they're happy, but the little spiral shell's not, and he wants to get back to the beach, and he doesn't care about being crunched to death. He wants to just live, and it's about living. And then eventually he gets crushed, but it's not that he dies. It's because he's released, and he becomes the oneness, much greater. And I had written a story in Captiva, Florida, where Lindbergh's wife had the same cottages where she had stayed and wrote her. It's a beautiful shelling bee, so she had a whole book about shells that she wrote there, and it's just got a great energy. And so at the end, I met a woman, I think, at an airport, and I write children's books, and she said, "Oh, you should write a book for hospice. I work for hospice for children to deal with death, And I said, "I just did." So those are my children's books. I hear the ocean.
Did you write those with your husband as well?
He was always there helping me. I put my name on it, but he helped me, because I don't have children in this life, but he had 5, and sometimes I was a little bit too direct with the children, because you can't say that to children. Say that Mirabelle went to sleep, because I'm like, he helped me soften it a little.
Well, going back to the Infinite Human book, I wanted to know, how do you choose, or how do things like Earth's history and Hollywood, religion, family, the twin souls, and this, idea of ascension, what does it have to do with today's problems in the world and what we're facing?
Well, the world's facing a whole lot of problems. Major problems. Especially in America, I think, I call it the Truman Show, because they're patching things up so much. They're bolstering the economy, the stock market. They keep trying to pretend that everything's okay. The banks are and food. I mean, the health of people. I mean, there's some real problems all over the planet. But that's a good thing, because you know why? I can tell you the secret that everyone should know. This time matrix get so bad, and it did. It got so bad. It was everything was like about to be destroyed. I mean, our Earth was like really about. It's been destroyed several times. We don't even know that. We don't know anything about the true history of our planet and how many times this poor little fragment of all the other Earths, because they're all coming back together, have been destroyed. But because of that, we've gone into something called failsafe. So everything has been reset. No, not to AI, but I call it to infinite source, to the crystalline spiral of life, to prime creation, what David Icke refers to as prime creation, to the way things should be. How everyone says, come on, get real, get real. You have no idea what real is. Organic, real food. I mean, 100 years ago, everything was, my grandmother, my grandfather had a little grocery store. We all had gardens and real food, the dollar, it was taken off of the gold standard. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything real. It's all fabricated, Federal Reserve fantasy of greedy people, printing up whatever they wanted to. Hollywood, God, I mean, I only watch oldies now. I've watched like 1930, 40, 50, and they're not that. They still had the problems, but I can't watch all this stuff anymore. There's no plot. There's no story. You could go on and on. The ministers. You have these mega churches and so far removed from anything that the Christ was talking about. We've gotten so far off, and this is kind of high metaphysics, but that's the Fibonacci spiral that has hooked into reality and taken us off. And what it had wanted to do was pull us into a fallen matrix. But we've been reset now. And the whole crystal, true spiral, is bringing us back home, bringing us back to a moral compass within us. It's not a political thing outside of us. It's inside of ourselves. So all of us who are feeling that and aligning intuitively with that, that's just being your authentic self, being honest about how you feel, feeling and healing, believing in yourself, understanding that God is within you and the oneness of all things. That's the real thing. Respecting all life forms. And I'm not promoting like be this and be that, a vegetarian or a vegan or a Catholic or a Jew or a American, those conceptions. But back at point zero, it's that infinite source we all have inside of us.
Beautiful.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's fascinating, and it does. And love being your producer of your show. And I wonder why you started the Infinite Human Talk Show on the Voice America Empowerment Channel just before I met you.
Well, first of all, I always say I just work here. In my spiritual teacher, my first spiritual teacher said that too, and I know what he meant. At first, I was like, "What do you mean?" Now you just kind of take orders, okay? And really, who am I taking orders from? Probably from the highest essence of myself, who sees all, who's up on the top of the mountain and has a better perspective. So I just do things like, I might have I've always done talk shows. I started a talk show, back 7 years ago in Louisville, Kentucky, called the Infinite Human Talk Show, so I did it, but I was always like kind of, moving toward this. And then I just, the timing, the divine timing came. And the talk show, first of all, uses the foundation of the book, which is why I really like people to read the book, because it connects all the dots. I go through every aspect of life, and then at the end, the last chapter is a solution. I'm saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is no history. So it's very helpful because people can get lost. Every guest I have, I've probably referred to in my book. Like Jay Widener was one of my first guests. David Icke was on there. And then I found some new people that just, it's almost like we're all coming spiritual closets right now. We've been kind of hiding We've been the oddballs. We've been the different people. We've been the weirdos. We've been the ones who've gotten bullied a lot, teased a lot. I know I haven't, and just for being different. And now, but we're the ones who've been hidden here for this very time. This is why we came here. This is why we suffered all the crap that we had to. We're going to show people the way out, because the way what we were teased for being and doing is exactly what the planet needs, because it's been going on the wrong straight road, Fibonacci spiral, and now we're the ones and we're all kind of coming out. And so I wanted to create it as a forum for us all creating with our words, with our thoughts, with our actions, a forum, a platform for the new consciousness renaissance. And it's very exciting, the people that I've been meeting and bringing on the show. Fascinating people. I feel like they're
how do you find those guests?
Well, very much. I think Peter, I really do. I'll say that now that you know them. He finds them, and they just kind of come in my radar. And they're just. I think we all know each other from other lifetimes, and we're all like, yeah, who are you? Oh, yeah, now I remember who you are, And we all have similar missions, which is to be the change, to talk the talk of a different paradigm, to walk the walk, to create a new earth. And they're just like in my face. They're there like.
That makes it easier, being connected.
Pardon?
That makes it easier, being so connected.
Yeah, and the more you rise up on this mountain I'm talking about, the summit is a lot smaller. Down at the bottom, there's cars and this and that, and everyone gets lost. But the more we come up in the higher dimensions, the more we are so connected. And I talk to them emails, but I also talk to them T-mails. Sometimes I'll talk to my guests way before the show and say, look, we need to get this, and I'll have the conversations that we're going to have in my head with them. And they know that too. We have them together.
It's amazing. And what would you say is the ultimate? I know we're working on goals, but the ultimate goal of the Infinite Human book and talk show combined, what would you think that would look like?
Well, that really opens me up to what I'm just now giving birth to, is the Infinite Human Foundation. And, this is my passion, and it's a nonprofit. I actually funded it with the money I finally got. I've had money, I haven't had money. So money for me is just something that I don't even think about, because I'm always doing it. And then it's like, oh, there's some money. Great. I can do this. So sincerely, it's a nonprofit because, I've just a sidestep. I've been a doctor's wife. I've done, my bucket list is empty. I've done everything I've ever wanted to. I've had dream homes. I've lived all over the planet. I don't have those, wish I had of those desires anymore. My only desire is to co-create a new earth, a new optimum earth. This is so exciting to me. And the Infinite Human Foundation is, to fund this talk show, first of all, as a platform for us to, and my voice, I hope, is pulling people in, magnetizing people towards their own unique soul mission, their unique divine puzzle piece. I always say we're all creating this divine puzzle, multidimensional puzzle, laying the new foundation for the new earth, an infinite foundation. So it's to fund talk shows and films. I have a passion about film, because I did have the new Renaissance Film School. So I want to get that going again, where we have the Infinite Human University for visionaries of the new consciousness Renaissance, where we can start using film, not the preemptive programming crap, satanic stuff that's coming out of Hollywood, but to really start using it for us to come together with these wonderful visions of an optimal future and an optimal earth. And that's one of my main goals. And then to acquire land, because we are the guardians. So we need to bring back these communities where we are, you might call them Melchizedek cloister communities that did exist on our earth before the fall, that held high frequency. and it kept the earth in balance, and in harmony, and in the oneness, so it kept this beautiful loving flowing energies, feel good, kept everyone feeling good, and we need that also in prototype communities where we grow our own food, where we educate our children, where people can come for bioregenesis to, restore their Christic template blueprint, and so they don't have to age and have disease and all that, and then just where we can come together and have fun and play and create together.
So, what is the new Infinite Earth, and what do you see your role in that is?
Wow, I just love David Emery. He was asked that, I think, the other day on another show, and they've been on my show, Jane Evershed and Dave Emery, and I think Jane asked him on her video that she did future. It's called Futuring the Earth, and you know what he said to her? He said, "What is your vision of the new infinite?" So I will turn that back to you, Harrison. What is your vision?
I don't know. I don't know, just peaceful planet, everything working together, no pollution, no wars, of course. I don't, regardless of how the world is, I don't think war should be something ever, but just people living the way they want to live, I guess, and doing it in a way that doesn't harm anybody else or the earth, I guess.
and Tacey, what about you?
I think people respecting Mother Earth more, and as you said, being able to grow our own food, and doing that and living off the land and respecting it at the same time, rather than having weapons of mass destruction and everything, to actually nurturing the earth and coming back to that place where we're all connected to Mother Earth, and helping each other when we grow food and stuff in our communities. And I like the whole idea of your new project that you're working on, so people can come together and find those spots. I think it's really important.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. The whole point is that, first of all, we all really want the same thing. We all really do. We just want to be free. We want to, be happy and healthy and loving and creative. And the thing is, the thing that's beautiful about that is that that's the oneness that we all have inside of ourselves. Yet, as we come together in that true unity, we're all so unique. So your contribution to this future, this new earth, Harrison, would be very different than Tacey. It would be very unique. But how beautiful is that? Because that's the spice of life, variety, right? We're not a cult. We all don't have to, eat the same food and, say the same, we get to shine and sparkle in our unique brilliance and giving our unique gifts and talents, yet with that, what we all want. We want just harmony, love, respect for one another, healthy, in harmony with Mother Earth and all of creation. So it's exciting time, and that's what I want to do at the University, is to help people unfold about and support them in their finding out and expressing their creativity, and also how we all come together as equals, because we've been living in this false hierarchical, competitive, it's all bullshit. It's not the way it's supposed to be, and it's lose. And we all think, my dream, it has to be my way, or that's just my dream, or she stole my dream, or, what I'm going with all that, right? Like we see with like the Hollywood or the icons or whatever, and we need to remember how we're all winning. We're all feeding each other. We're all part of this beautiful dance, that we're all different notes in this wonderful cacophony and symphony of sound and light. So it's beautiful.
Beautifully said there. I like the symphony.
And so it is.
And are you working on other projects as well? Never cease to amaze us, but
Well, what other project? Only another
So
Earth.
the foundation is the main one now, right? That you're
Well, now I'm laying the foundation. This is the year of foundation laying. And then I believe next year, 2025, is going to be where we start taking action. But you have to have the foundation correct, right? If you're building a house and you have a faulty foundation. So this is a very tedious, it might look for many that we're not doing much, but these talk shows, these talking and thinking and putting it out not only into cyberspace, but also into the ethers, into the morphogenetic field of our planet. So everyone can kind of, it's the 100th monkey syndrome. One person start washing our food. And then the next thing you know, everyone's like washing their little, creating their little part of the new infinite earth. And it's an exciting time to radiate that.
How can we find your books and learn more about these projects and things like that?
Okay, great. Well, everything's on my website, www.infinitehuman.com. Please go there, subscribe. The books are there. Now the books are everywhere. They're on Amazon. They're in Ingram. You can go to your bookstore and order them. You can get them through Lulu, and you can get them directly on my website too. I'm still working with that. And, of course, the talk show's on there, and I'll be offering all kinds of things in the future. Part of them is Infinite Human Tours. We'll be doing tours and sacred pilgrimages around Sicily, Europe, the Yucatan, all over. And university, I want to start creating. Actually, I'm kind of leaning more towards back to the film school. So where people, it's not just about technique, because almost everyone can make pretty decent films right now, but it's learning how to create from your soul, learning what you like, learning how to tell your unique story, and then how to collaborate, not out of the ancient thing like, I'm the director, this is the way, we had the tyranny, but more as, there's Kiki. More as us all collaborating together. So it means it's time to go. I think we're almost out of time, right?
We still have a few more minutes. I'm curious as to what drove you to Sicily.
Well, it's in my book because I talk a lot about, and I think that's a good thing I wrote it, because the truth is, God, infinite source, speaks to us through signs and symbols. And most people are starting to understand that, So I'd like to show in my personal life how signs and symbols are there. And especially if you're not getting them, they just keep getting stronger, to the point where, might get someone like who comes up and punches you in the face from Sicily, right? So I knew, and this is how I moved around the whole planet. That's just an example. I've moved from Kiki, be quiet. I've moved from Panama, everywhere, from Guam to Panama, from Panama to Spain, the same way. But this is just one example of Peter Pan. Okay, so Sicily, I knew I had to close my film school because I just knew there was something happening. And I knew the timelines were splitting. And the students I kept getting and the directors and people I was working with, one worked with Marina Barnett, doing all the satanic stuff. I had a director who slept with snakes. I just said, I got to leave. And I kept meeting people from Sicily. And then I noticed there was a beach, it was called Peter Pan Beach. Well, Peter was, escaped Castro. He was Cuban, and he escaped Castro. And later that became what is called Operación Peter Pan. They called it the Peter Pan operation, where 14,000 clandestine, refugees from Cuba's lives were saved by escaping to Florida. So it's always, whenever I see Peter Pan, I know Peter's telling me something, So it's the signs and symbols that we learned to do together when we were in the physical. And then we shared, anytime I hear Cuban music, Peter Pan, I know, pay attention, I'm talking to you. So that's how.
That is so neat.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you and Voice America. being there. I've been very happy with this platform, and I love all the new innovations. And it's like we're really reaching in so many different areas, both audio and visual now. So I think it's really
and so
moving.
many countries you're reaching, and each week, and then at one
Yes, I
point,
noticed Bulgaria. Hi, Bulgarians.
you're reaching a lot of different ones. Some of my hosts keep count, but I know that's a lot. The space station, the International Space Station, actually quite a few years ago, when we had our accountant, Angie, they reached out that they were listening to Voice America on the ISS. So besides being global, I think we're more interplanetary, possibly.
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic. There we go. So definitely reaching people.
Well, thank you all for listening. I just want to say now, thank you so much. I've been so much just trying to get it out there, but now I want to give a heartfelt, expression of my gratitude and love to all you listening on podcasts or listening here on the live stream. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Harrison, and thank you, Tacy. And
thank you.
And thank you, our silent engineer, Matt. Okay, so we're out of time. So I'll just say, ciao in the now. Bye, everybody. Bye, bye.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Infinite Human Talk Show with your host, Elizabeth Monroy. We hope today's episode has inspired you to join the new consciousness renaissance and be the change by reclaiming your true divine infinite nature within and becoming an infinite human and a co-creator of the new infinite earth. Tune in next week for another empowering episode. Until then, have an infinite week.